Welcome to BergKnifemaking.com. Today we're going to take a look at part 2 of a knife making class. So in part 1 we ended up profiling the blade, doing the rough bevels, the surface grinding, got it to the point where the blade was ready for heat treating. And that's where we're going to pick up on today's video. So the blade is wrapped in stainless tool wrap and then placed into a heat treating oven. This is AEBL stainless steel. So the heat treatment is pretty simple. It ramps up to 1960 degrees. We hold it there for at least 15 minutes, and then we're going to plate quench it. Now while it's heating up, we moved on and started to make some segmented scales. These are all Hunter's design, color choices, etc. I work on parchment paper on a flat piece of wood.
Just make sure that they're pressed down.
We glue all of the
bottom surface
segments together with the spacers, and then let that dry. I used a CA glue for that portion of the segmented scales. Now that the blade has been at the 1960 degrees for 15 minutes, I'm going to take it out. I'm going to plate quench it between two aluminum plates. They can be solid or tubing. The ones I use are tubing.
That's it.
I'm going to clamp that nice and tight, and that really prevents any warping of the blade.
Nice and tight. And then start blowing.
And then you really want to cool that blade as quickly as possible. So we do this by blowing compressed air through the gap. And because this is tubing rather than solid aluminum, we can also blow it right through the tube. So after it has cooled sufficiently, we're just going to cut it out of that stainless tool wrap envelope. That envelope really prevents buildup of slag, carbonization.
Not bad. Blow some more air on that. Make sure it's cool.
So the next process, I'm actually gonna put this after it cools to room temperature. I'm gonna do a sub-zero quench just using dry ice. So I'll put it between two flat pieces of dry ice, and then we'll put it into the oven for tempering. 2 cycles at 395 degrees. While that's happening, we're going to go back and he's going to continue to work on the segmented scales. And he put a really nice color combination here. It's African blackwood, and it's got a maple burl as the segment. Just going to chew up both sides. And then this entire scale would get glued onto a liner. So the blade, after heat treating, you got to clean it up. You went back to the surface grinder.
I think that's good.
Cleaned it up real quick with I think it was a 120 and then a 240. We didn't have to go too far. It's not going to be a mirror polish blade. In fact, he's going to have an etched textured finish on the blade. Alright, so now we're going to move on to etching. We do electro etching. So this is done with a car battery charger, a solution of white vinegar and salt. We cut out a stencil from self-adhesive vinyl, and that acts as the resist. Basically anything that's covered with that vinyl will remain shiny, and anything that's exposed to the etching will get the etched texture. So after the etching, and this is etched for a total of about 3 minutes at 12 volts, 2 amps, done in 30-second increments with a little bit of cooling time in between. You never really want that self-adhesive vinyl to lose its adhesion. And once those 3 minutes are up and you've got the proper depth you can remove the vinyl and clean that up. I'll show you the finished product in a little bit. Then it's back on to the 2x72. This is an Origin Blade Maker 2x72 belt grinder, mounted with one of my tilt table bevel grinding jigs. The neat thing about this is that without resetting the angle, he just went right back to it from the rough bevels. Put on a 120 grit belt and very quickly, cleaned up or did the post heat treat finished bevels. Just hold the blade nice and flat against that tilt table, and you get the feel for it pretty quickly. It's just a movement from left to right while holding the blade flat against the table. So then he moved on. This blade is actually going to have stainless steel bolsters. So he went on to forming the front edge of those bolsters, and they're going to be dovetail bolsters to boot. This is using a disc grinder just to flatten the contact side of both sides of the bolsters. Very important to get that nice and flat so you get a good fit to the blade. And you'll always get it a little bit flatter using a disc grinder than you would using a belt sander and a flat platen. Now he's going to move on to doing the dovetails. So this is actually an Origin Blade Maker disc grinder. Really works nice. I've got that angle preset. So he's going to grind, approximately a 45-degree angle on the dovetails, on the stainless dovetails. When they get hot, he'll pull them down. And he'll do the same thing for the scales without resetting that. These bolsters get hammer peened in place, so it's a mechanical bond. And then we're just going to glue those scales on and pin them in place. This is as far as we're going to go. I think this is night 3 of the class. On the final episode, we're just going to finish profiling the bolsters and the scales, shaping the scales, and giving a final edge to the blade. But so far, really doing a nice job, and his knife is really coming out nicely. If you like this video, and I hope you did, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Join us on our Facebook group, Knives and Knife Making. And if you're interested in knife making, check out the book that Jason Northgard and I put out last year called Introduction to Knife Making, which is available on Amazon.com. Thank you.